Hello, thank you, and thank you for having me here today. I do not have slides that I plan to present. I'll just make a few introductory remarks and then be part of what hopefully will be a robust discussion. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm with Deerfield. I'm an investor in particular in the venture capital area, which I've been doing for almost 20 years now in biotechnology companies. I'm also a member of the board of the National Venture Capital Association and of the Emerging Companies section of the Biotechnology Industry Organization board of directors. So I really appreciate the invitation to be here today. I think it says a lot that this committee has gone out of its way to make sure that it gets perspective from investors and small companies. I think there's a natural bias in thinking about all of this to picture the big pharma trial with thousands of patients run by a sponsor with seemingly limitless resources, and it's important to get some perspective of how the world looks from the point of view of the types of companies that are increasingly performing many of the clinical trials, particularly related to some of the most important and innovative new drugs with new mechanisms and going after more specialty targeted rare diseases and the like. So with that, I guess I'll just offer up a couple of thoughts on the nature of a small company, which is at some level perhaps obvious, but to say that two aspects of small companies that are worth thinking about. One is that they have very limited resources. And the second is that small biotech companies are quite often very fragile financially, and they live from hand to mouth, or in effect from financing to financing, and their ability to succeed and their ability to do the development of their novel products depends on access to financing regularly and constantly over the 10 or 15 years that they may spend developing products before they have any revenue at all. So with those two characteristics in mind would lead me to mention a couple of implications. And the first is perhaps an obvious one, but an important one to keep in mind, which is that any data sharing requirements that are put in place or guidelines should be done with attention to the amount of burden and resource requirement associated with complying with them. I mean, it's one thing if you're a large pharma company developing many dozens of products across hundreds of clinical trials to empanel a standing group of outside experts, for example, to handle incoming requests and process them, and then have a group that would pull the data that's necessary to address incoming requests. If you're a small biotech company operating on a virtual basis with maybe 10 employees and developing one or two products, having that kind of standing resource dedicated to managing clinical trial data sharing requests would be quite burdensome. So keeping that perspective in mind, I think, is valuable. The other, and I think it's something really that underlies some of the fears that you may hear from small company sponsors about clinical trial data sharing generally, which is the risk of harm to the company's ability to finance and raise capital. And why would that come about? I mean, we're talking about sharing truthful information, accurate data, so why would that create problems for a company if they have a good product worthy of development? And the answer is in a whole lot of different ways. And those can be due to people who intentionally want to use a company's data to harm that company's prospects, or probably more likely, or maybe more likely, the unintentional harm that can result. And in the intentional category, I would say that companies are very worried about competitors getting their hands on data, as well as short sellers in the financial markets, and using that data to impair a company's prospects for raising capital and successfully developing its products. And you may think it's easy to identify a competitor and say, well, competitors can't have access to proprietary data sets, but it's not that easy. When well-respected academics who are leaders in their field, who are the kinds of people that I think we all want to see getting access to this kind of data, are in fact very often, if not almost always, affiliated in all kinds of different ways with various sponsors developing products. So how do you sort out who ultimately will get a hold of that data or what agenda may be behind it?
Your time is up, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rick?